Hello and welcome to the EFN Presents review of the Friendship is Magic comic issue 9, Zen and the Art of Gazebo Repair. As always guys, spoiler alert, I will be covering the whole comic here, so if you haven't read it yet, go and check it out and then come on back. As you can tell from the title, this issue marks the beginning of a new storyline and the third arc in the comics. The first two stories spanned 4 issues apiece and focused on the returning Queen Chrysalis and newcomer Knight Merity respectively as the primary villains. This new installment is a 2-part epic pitting our heroes against... the gazebo? Oh, wait, no, it's a box of nails. Granny Smith? Okay, so there really isn't a villain in these issues. What we've got here is a good old slice-of-life story. During the comic panel at BronyCon, writer Katie Cook and artist Andy Price commented on this departure from the formula used in the previous comics.
Yeah. I like things that are funny. I like things to be silly and funny and weird. And that's my favorite thing about comics, is I like funny books, and I was trying to make a true funny book. And that's really what the Big Mac arc is it's a funny book. And
it was also, after Chrysalis and Knight Merity, which were both pretty heavy, it's like, okay, it's time to just spend a day in Ponyville and see what goes on in just a regular day.
And when you write Hasbro and say, I would like to do 2 issues about Big Mac finding a box of nails, they are going to write back an email that says, what?
So, spending a day in Ponyville is what we're in for in this issue, and from the cover, that's exactly what we see. Though clearly a normal day in Ponyville is anything but dull. The shot of Big Macintosh, taken aback with examples of the town's everyday silliness behind him, tells us just what kind of story we're in for without giving away any of the details. What can I say? It's a pretty effective cover. Apart from the lack of a villain, another big divergence from the previous issues here is who the focus of the comic is. The shining protagonist here is none other than that stallion of few words, Big Macintosh. This is a terrific character choice, and for those who've seen my review of the first comic, you'll find it's for a lot of the same reasons I love their pick of Chrysalis in that arc. Big Macintosh, as Applejack's brother, has appeared in quite a few episodes, saving the writer from having to establish the character for the reader. But his nature and generally minor roles leave him undeveloped enough to give the writer freedom to take them in new directions. While he did have a major role in Hearts and Jose, he was under a spell, so as far as characterization goes, doesn't count. Not going with a more main character also makes sense given the everyday life nature of this issue. It means we're not seeing an extraordinary pony in a mundane situation. Just a regular pony on a regular day with no baggage of heroism or adventure coming between the reader and the character's present situation. The plot for this issue centers around Big Macintosh's quest for some nails at the behest of Granny Smith to fix a squeaky board in the Apple family's gazebo. With the summer wrap-up festival going on in town, Big Mac's efforts are impeded by the town's denizens, often to comical effect. Despite being the protagonist of sorts for this story, Big Mac's role in most of these events is that of impartial observer or, at best, unwilling participant. He's on for the ride as much as we are. Big Macintosh stays true to form in this issue, sticking with his trademark monosyllabic phrases. But the comic wisely imbues him with an inner voice, working double duty as the story's narrator. A good deal of the humor in this comic comes not just from the physical gags, but the disconnect between Big Mac's thoughts and his actions, but it wisely doesn't make a joke of his inner voice being uncharacteristically loquacious, which would get old rather fast. Rather, it plays nicely on the character's nature of being rather soft-spoken, as we see in his encounter with the Cake family, protesting the situation in his mind, but not verbally. Being a solo comic, this inner voice is also necessary. With the main 6, the characters can often talk amongst themselves for the benefit of the reader, but when Big Mac runs into different characters, they're generally unrelated to the story and they don't stick around, so explaining his situation out loud wouldn't make much sense. While asking for help would be the logical way to accomplish this, he's buying a box of nails at the hardware store. I'm pretty sure he can handle himself. Big Macintosh has a veritable cornucopia of encounters on his mission, including multiple appearances by the CMC, coming across rather destructive in this issue, which the colorist Heather Breckel reflects upon in the BronyCon panel.
And Hasbro's been pretty good to us. Like, I mean, we've gotten away with like so much. It's like
Yeah.
issue 9. I can't believe they let us do all that stuff with Sweetie Belle and the fireworks.
I don't think they even.
I was like, this is imitatable. Like when I was coloring it, I was like, did they look at the comic?
Additional appearances are made by the Cake Family, Trixie, a concussed Fleetfoot, Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon and a great Charlie Brown reference, Snowflake, Zecora, and a very animated Princess Luna rounding things off. These encounters range in both length and tone, keeping the plot from feeling too mechanical, just ticking along between the random scenes until the comic's conclusion. Despite the familiar setting, the writing really feels unique from the Ponyville-based episodes of the cartoon. There's no real lesson here, and it's not a character-based conflict. Big Mac's just trying to find some nails and get swept up in what's going on around him. That said, the setting is unmistakably Ponyville, with so many of its residents making appearances doing pretty much what we'd expect to see them doing, but the focus stays on Big Mac. Unlike some of my complaints about the focus in issue 2, it's great to see not just a lot of action here, but that the comic never loses sight of what story it's trying to tell. As for the art, once again it's a great mix of terrific layouts and expressions that we've come to expect from this team. Considering Big Mac's placid demeanor, having these exaggerated expressions on him makes him that much more effective. As for the coloring, it's no surprise that, given the location, the palette for this issue is very similar to the show, bright and colorful. However, after visiting the exotic locations from the previous issues, some of the panels here seem kind of sterile by comparison. Many of the panels are dominated by large, flat sections of color, be it the largely cloud-free skies, debris-free ground, or just uniform tents and booths, a consequence of the setting more than anything else. But that's more than made up for by the great detail in the characters, Luna especially looking fantastic here, and the scenes with the destroyed hardware store and Fleetfoot's daydream really stand out as visual highlights. I absolutely love Luna's changing shirt phrases, but I liked some of the more subtle moments even more, like the background when Fleetfoot is staring at Big Macintosh, showing her mind on romance and his on nails. And as always, the issue is chock full of references for the observant and provides incentive for multiple readings. In the end, we find out just where the CMC's fireworks ended up, with Big Macintosh looking less than impressed. This comic is a great addition to the series, complementing the darker themes of the previous entries, and I can't wait to see how everything wraps up. Will Big Mac ever find some nails? What fate awaits the gazebo? Will Big Macintosh incur Luna's wrath for abandoning the games? How's Granny Smith holding up? We'll find out in issue 10. See you next time.